In today's episode, we have with us Sukanya Sarkar, and she's a lawyer turned journalist. She's worked as an IP lawyer for 7 years in a law firm as well as an in house counsel before moving on to journalism in the legal industry. Currently, she's working as a special projects editor in the legal benchmarking group. So stay tuned. And if you haven't already done that, please subscribe to the HMHL podcast so you don't miss out on any episodes. We're available on Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Music. Hello, listeners. Welcome to Happy Mind, Happy Lawyer podcast, a podcast which is dedicated to exploring work lives of lawyers. We are starting off with our ex-lawyer series. In each episode of this series, we sit down with a former lawyer who has taken the bold step of leaving law to pursue new and diverse career paths. We will delve into their stories, the challenges that they faced, the lessons learned, and the uncharted opportunities they discovered along the way. Whether you're a seasoned legal professional, wondering about a career change, or just curious about what lies beyond the courtroom of law firm, this series offers valuable insights and guidance. Join us as we uncover the realities of making a career shift, the strategies for success, and how to navigate the uncertainties that come with change. I'm Kanika Kadam, your host for this podcast. I'm an organizational psychologist and a work coach at Happy Mind, Happy Lawyer, aka HMHL. And I've worked as a banking and finance lawyer for a long time. At Happy Mind, Happy Lawyer, our aim is to help people build happier work lives, whether it's within the legal profession or outside of it. We offer consulting and workshops to law firms and organizations on their organizational behavior issues and coaching and mentorship to individual lawyers for their work-related problems. So, welcome, Sukanya, to the podcast, and thank you so much for coming here and sharing your story with us today.
Thank you, Kanika, for inviting me. Really excited to be here.
So, I want to start off with your legal journey. So, can you tell us a little bit about how was your legal career like, where all you have worked, and how many years you worked?
Sure. So I got my law degree from a private law school in Bhubaneswar, KIIT. There's no other lawyer in my family, so taking up law as a field of study was pretty much a whimsical decision for me. But anyway, fast forward 5 years. I came to Delhi because I'd done all my internships during my law school over here, so I kind of knew that I wanted to work in the city. I'm from Calcutta, by the way, so it was the first time I was kind of staying in the city for a long term. But yeah, I've been here for many years now, and I really like working here. But anyway, when I came here first, I joined a boutique IP firm in Gurgaon. It's called Grover Law. So I've always been interested in intellectual property, even during my law school days, and I knew that I wanted to do something in that domain. So I joined the IP boutique and then worked there for 4 years. I liked the variety of work, that boutique practice can offer you compared to a big law firm. That's probably one of the reasons I decided to go with a boutique. I also like, spending time kind of settling into one role. So yeah, I worked there for 4 years. And then when I felt the time was right, and of course, the right opportunity came by, I joined the in-house IP legal team at Havells. It's like a FMEG company. I'm sure you would have heard of it. And then I was exposed to a lot of new things over there. That was a good move for sure. And I made some really good friends. The work was pretty great because Havels was fairly active in both the IP prosecution and litigation spaces. I got to work on like a variety of IP rights from trademarks to copyright to patents. That was great. So yeah, I spent 3 years over there and then moved to my current role, which I suppose you can talk about later during our conversation.
So, you were working as a lawyer for around 7 years?
Around 7 years, yes.
And what made you switch from the law firm to an in house counsel?
To be honest, at the law firm that I was working at, I was putting in a lot of hours and definitely want a little bit of a work-life balance. And I also wanted a new challenge. I mean, you may have seen from my career trajectory, I like to kind of, switch things up a little bit. I like taking new challenges. So that was another reason why I thought like in-house role would be better for me because, I had worked at an IP boutique for 4 years. I had learned everything that I was basically working on trademarks. And if I had switched to another law firm, I would be doing the same thing in trademark or copyright probably. And I thought maybe I just want to kind of see things from the strategizing perspective because at law firm, you're doing the work when clients have already decided that this is probably something they want to do, so there's limited amount of things that you're doing at a law firm. But in an in-house role, you're doing things from the inception level, right? You're involved in business decisions, you're involved with business teams that kind of getting to learn how they're thinking about certain things. So yeah, I just wanted to see that bit as well, I suppose.
And how was your overall experience working as a lawyer in the legal profession?
I definitely enjoyed my time. I would say that I've had like mixed experience as a lawyer. I really like the work I was doing. I would really like to think that I was pretty good at the work that I was doing as well.
Hmm.
So that was great. I made some great friends during my time, both at law firm that I was working at and also my in-house role. But of course, I've had some not so great experiences as well in terms of dealing with certain people, the kind of work hours you're expected to put in, the kind of office politics that you are made to be a part of. So I think those were not the greatest time I would have had in both organizations that I've worked at. But again, I was surrounded by great people, and I would really like to stress that, I worked with great leadership teams, and I also worked with great colleagues who have supported me, throughout my career during those 7 years. So yeah, I suppose it was like a mixed experience for me.
And then what triggered you wanting to leave the law?
I mean, there wasn't like a specific thing that kind of, made me consider leaving the legal profession.
Hmm.
It was rather like a culmination of different things, I would say, and also where I was mentally at that point of time in life when I left the profession, I suppose, that led to my decision to quit. So, after working for many years as a lawyer, I realized that I wasn't happy with what I was doing in the sense that I felt that I was doing the same thing over and over again. And I'm sure there are lots of people who would be happy to do that. And
Hmm.
in fact, you're supposed to be doing that if you want to be the best in the business, right? But it just wasn't for me. And also, I wanted a new challenge, but at the same time, take a little bit of a breather, do some traveling along with work. So I was looking for a full time remote position that allowed certain flexibilities as well. And that's how I ended up kind of leaving the legal profession and taking up my current role.
And how did you decide that you wanted to go into journalism? Like, were you interested in it from before, or you explored it and you found it interesting? Like, what made you go into journalism?
I mean, I wanted to be a journalist when I was a kid, to be honest, but
Mm.
when I kind of, grew up, it's not something I had thought about for years. But then again, I was researching the opportunities that I probably could take up once I leave law. I've been thinking about it for like many years, to be honest, even before I actually decided or I actually made the move out of law. But yeah, anyway, I kind of researched a bit about what I could do after leaving law, and nothing really stuck out.
Mm.
And my current organization, managing IP, like I had contributed to a few managing IP articles previously when I was working as a lawyer, so I knew a few people within the organization.
Mm.
And kind of it was pretty serendipitous for me, to be honest, getting this opportunity. I saw that they had an opening for a Hong Kong based Asia reporter. They had never engaged anyone in India before, in the editorial team at least. So I just kind of glanced the opportunity, and then I was like, yeah, maybe there's something I would really like to do. But they didn't have an opening in India, so I reached out to my contact within the organization, and I asked him like, is this something you would consider me for, because I'm planning to leave the legal profession. And he was like, he's a very good friend and colleague now within the organization. We work in the same team. And he was like, yeah, why don't you just apply and we'll see like how or whether you can fit into the role. And I applied for it and I got through, and that's exactly how I got the role. So not a lot of planning went into it, but yeah, it was just about taking that right risk at the right time and also coming across the right opportunity at the right time, I suppose.
And so when you moved into the new job, so is it that you had already left, the legal profession by then? Or, it was that the opportunity came along and then you made the decision to leave law?
So, to be honest, I had put down my papers at Havels and I had gone through one or two rounds of interview at managing IP at that point of time, but they had not formally made an offer to me. But I just, at that point of time, I knew that I wanted to quit because of certain personal situations as well. And I was like, I'm sure I'll find something.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know if that was like brave or stupid, but I did that, and like before my notice period was off over,
Mm.
manager IP decided to make an offer. So that worked out well in the end. But yeah, I didn't have a job offer in hand before I decided to put in my papers.
I asked that because a lot of people have that doubt, right? Okay, should I have a job in hand before I quit, or should I just go out and explore and see what happens?
Yeah, so I totally get it. And like, again, I would definitely recommend having a job in hand before you decide to quit because otherwise there can be a lot of uncertainties because all of us need to pay our bills, right? And a lot of lawyers you see are not living with their parents, they're living on their own, they're paying their own bills, right? And so it's definitely a good idea to have something in hand before you decide to quit. And even if you don't have something in hand, at least have an idea about what you want to do and just ensure that you have taken some steps to go into that direction. Like for me, it was a calculated risk because I had given a couple of interviews already at uh, appeared for a written test. I think it's 3 years back. I forgot like the interview process to be honest.
Mm.
But yeah, so I knew that there's a fair chance that I was going to get this role. So that's kind of I calculated the risk before kind of putting down my papers for sure. And I recommend anybody looking to transition out of their career to do the same.
So let's get into your current role. So can you tell me a little bit about what exactly is the kind of work that you do in journalism? Because I looked at some of the articles you write, and a lot of them are to do with the legal industry still, right? I saw that you've reported on deals, on diversity issues, on well-being aspects in law as well. So yeah, can you just tell me a little bit about what your work entails right now?
Sure. So I'm currently working as like a special projects editor at the legal benchmarking group at the Lenian, which is a UK-based company. So when I started at the organization 3 years ago, I joined as a journalist at managing IP and IP publication. I wrote about everything IP covering the Asia Pacific region when I started. So that would mean reporting on legal developments, what law firms are doing in these regions, and as you rightly pointed out, of course, well-being issues, diversity and inclusivity issues in these regions. I started writing about them because I myself, have faced certain situations in workplaces, and I myself am very passionate about these issues as well. And it's not just situations that I've faced. We all have friends in the profession as well, right? So I have heard a lot of horror stories from my friends in the profession
Mm.
who have worked at like big firms, small firms, in-house organization. You get to hear a lot less about horror stories from in-house organizations for sure. But yeah,
Mm.
some law firms can be, really toxic workplaces to work in. So yeah, I was aware of all of these issues and I started writing about it because, I had a medium where I could express my opinion and had a great team, great supportive team at Managing IP who allowed me to kind of, write whatever I wanted to write. So did that quite a lot. But then just of February, I've transitioned to a little bit of a different role. I still do write for managing IP to some extent, but not as much as I used to before. Currently, as a special projects editor, my main role is to manage like a bunch of product-based offerings across managing IP and two other legal publications, which are International Tax Review and International Financial Law Review, which fall under the same umbrella of the legal benchmarking group. So I've kind of branched out a little bit, doing a little bit of different kind of work rather than just writing.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm still very passionate about writing, and I try to do that whenever I get a chance.
So, how does your normal work day look like?
That's a great question. So I suppose it's like a 9 to 5 job, like any other job.
Hmm.
Although, my team is very cool about whatever hours you want to put in, just put in. As long as you're doing your work, we don't really care which hours you're working, what hours you're working, rather. So that's really great a perk that comes with this job. And I also work like in a full-time remote position, right? So again, I don't have to go to office, so that saves up a lot of time for me. I work from home,
Hmm.
so I use those few extra hours that I have now to kind of go to the gym in the morning, go to the gym in the evening,
Hmm.
like have like a nice garden. I really like plants, so I take care of my plants. I start my morning really slow. I have my coffee in peace. So yeah, I kind of like all of that. And regularly within the work hours, I mean, I think I try to write a bit. I try to speak to lawyers from different countries a bit, as much as it is required for my role. And then, yeah, I take care of other stuff that I need to. Like, we do have a few projects, like, we identify young, promising lawyers from across the world who are doing great things in IP. So I take care of that. I take care of another project which is most influential people in IP. So that's about identifying, people who have done really good work in IP over the past year. So I do that. Of course, I do have like a great supportive team again who help me do all of this stuff, and then I work on several other product based offerings as well, which I'm not going to bore you with. But yeah, it's kind of like a usually pretty chill a work day for me. Even when there's like a lot of projects coming in, there's a lot of work coming in, I still kind of get to work the hours that I want to, as long as my team members are also comfortable with that as well, and they're usually very chill. So yeah, that's how my average work day looks like.
So, a lot of flexibility and good work-life balance.
Yeah, that's there for sure. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to take up a full-time remote position. I also wanted to kind of travel a little bit. So I work from Goa, I've worked from Himachal, pretty much can work from anywhere that I want. So that's again a great perk as well.
Sounds like a dream job for many people out there. Because you've also worked as an in-house counsel and you worked at a law firm, and now, after changing your career, you're working in a company. Was there any difference in the work-life balance when you were working as an in-house counsel and your current career? Because the popular perception is that, okay, if you're working as an in-house counsel, you're going to have a much better work-life balance as compared to if you're working in a law firm. So I just wanted to get to know about how your experience was like in terms of work-life balance there.
For sure. I mean, when I moved in-house is the first time when I could, get out of the office at 5 or 6 and I could still see daylight. And I was like, wow, that is new. And that has never been the case in the past 4 years. I was like, yeah, that was pretty great. And yeah, the great thing about Havels was that, you could actually come to work at 8 or 9, whatever the time was, and then leave at 5, and nobody was going to kind of, question you that why exactly are you leaving at 5, because that was a culture everybody used to kind of pack up and leave in time, unless you had like really something really really urgent, and that would not happen like a lot, to be honest. Like if you're working on urgent litigation in which you needed to kind of stay back and collate information, collate facts, and send it to your lawyers timely so that they can build a case, right? Those are the only times I remember staying at office late, but even that would be like 7, 8 p.m. max, not beyond that. So I definitely had like a great work-life balance and Havels. I think the only change I would have here is the flexibility that I have. And also, of course, there's no commute time for me because Havels, we used to work from office, except for in COVID, of course. At that point of time, we had work from home, right? And yeah, during COVID was the first time I kind of started really enjoying work from home, and I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Although I do miss like working from office, I miss kind of the camaraderie with your colleagues that you have
Mm.
when you work from office. I miss the water cooler conversations, but I think I now really, really enjoy quiet time at my house. I love that I'm able to kind of go to the gym or do my own thing in the morning before I start work. Or I also like that, if I have to go to a doctor's appointment in the morning, I can do that and then start work a little late and then finish work a little late. And nobody's going to question you on that. Everybody's really, really understanding about all of that. So I think that's the main difference. I wouldn't say that, I didn't have work-life balance even in my in-house role. I just would say that what I now have is better.
I completely get that. I think it's more to do with how much control you have on your time.
Yeah.
So that makes a huge difference.
It's just you have that ownership of your time, right? That, as you said, makes a great difference. If that's what you want, right? I hear a lot of people say that, we couldn't work from home all the time. I'm like, yeah, that's good for you. But I really enjoy doing this and I wouldn't want to go back to office ever. So yeah.
And do you think any of the skills that you learned as a lawyer were they helpful in your new career?
I suppose my research skills that I picked up during my time as a lawyer has definitely helped
Hmm.
for sure. And also, as a lawyer, you learn to fact check everything. You need to ensure that, whatever legal opinion you're sending out, either to your senior, either to an external client, either to your business team when you're working in house, like it's kind of sound, it's grounded in fact, it's grounded in law, right?
Hmm.
And even as a journalist, the most basic thing is that you have to ensure that you have fact checked everything correctly. You are not reporting anything that's incorrect in any way, right? So I think my training as a lawyer has definitely helped me have a really keen eye and kind of, be very accurate when I'm doing my reporting.
And tell me a little bit about how difficult was it for you to make the change mentally? Because like there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of fears that we have in our mind when we are thinking about a career change and a lot of risk that is associated with that. So, what were the major fears or challenges that you had in your mind, and how did you overcome that?
So, as I mentioned some time back, I quit my last job without having another offer letter in hand. So, yeah, my biggest fear was ensuring that I could pay my bills because I'm from Calcutta. I used to live in Delhi. I had like a rented apartment. I was sharing with a flatmate, I think at that point of time. My main issue was like, yeah, do I have enough savings to kind of take care of myself for the next few months just in case I don't have a job? So, yeah, that was one. But again, as I said, I had already been interviewed at my current organization at that point of time, and they made an offer before my notice period at my last workplace ended. So that was good. But also, transitioning to an entirely new career can be very challenging because you feel very insecure about having to start from scratch. I knew I was good at what I was doing before, but I didn't know if I was going to be good at my new job. Like, and also, you always have that thought going on the back of your mind that what do I do if I end up regretting my decision? What if it's difficult to transition back into law? I mean, it's probably going to be, right? So, yeah, all of those thoughts were in the back of my mind. All of those fears were in the back of my mind. And also, more than that, I knew that I was going to be surrounded by a great team at my new organization, like stellar journalists who have been doing this for a very long time, very really strong knowledge of what's going on in the IP legal space across jurisdictions. And on top of that, they write beautifully because I had seen their work, right? I had contributed to managing IP before. I knew that the kind of excellence they produced in their work. So yeah, that kind of was a little bit daunting, and that was another bit of added pressure as well. But yeah, at the end of the day, you have to take that leap of faith, I suppose.
Thanks for sharing that because all these concerns are very real, right? Financial security, how you going to be able to survive, and also the added pressure of jumping into something unknown, not being sure about how it's going to pan out. Did you consider doing any other courses or going for more higher education in the new field? Because that's another question that people who think of changing their careers, they have to decide, right? Okay, whether I should go for more education or should I just directly dive into the new career that I want to get into?
So honestly, I didn't, but I also didn't because I got an opportunity right when I was working as a lawyer, right? So they didn't really ask for any additional qualification. My organization really kind of, valued what kind of work you can produce for us rather than what kind of degree that you have. And they thought that my legal degree was going to be an advantage to them because I was going to continue working in the same IP legal domain. It's just that I was not going to work as a lawyer, right? So they never demanded that I have additional qualifications as well. And there have been opportunities that have come by in the years that I have been managing IP, like similar to what role I've been doing here. And to be honest, nobody has asked for an additional qualification for me. So for me, I mean, it's great if you know that probably this is what you want to do and this degree is going to help you find a great job once you've decided to transition from your career. But for me, that job was already there. And for me, I now need to think about just the next steps. And maybe there could be qualifications or shorter courses that I could do that could help me pick up new skills. But would I really go for a full blown degree at any point of time? I don't really think so. I don't think I ever considered that as well, to be honest.
It's great that that worked out for you, and also because you already had some experience, right? Because you said that you were writing for managing IP even while you were working as a lawyer, like some of it. So, that would have really helped in getting the new role as well. And also, you were still working, and you are still working within the legal industry, right? So the industry itself has not changed, but the role has changed. So that again would be another factor to consider. And I think it depends on what area also that you want to get into. Right? Also, some of them would require a full-blown degree, but for others that may not be necessary. Right? So for someone who may be thinking of getting into a new career, I think it's important for them to also look at what industry they want to get into and what exactly is the role they want to get into and whether they need to focus on getting more experience or whether they need to focus on getting a degree. Okay, moving on. I wanted to know what is your favorite piece or story that you have written till
That is a very hard one. But honestly, like it's difficult to pick, but I would definitely kind of, want to highlight all the pieces that I've written about ensuring kind of, diversity and inclusivity in the profession. There have been some excellent interviews that I've written about that as well. Like very recently, I interviewed this person in Australia who is working as a DEI specialist with one of the largest Australian IP firms, which is Philip Sormont Fitzpatrick. And she had like really, really nice advice about how to deal with like microaggressions at workplace, how leaders should take charge, how law firms can ensure that they are attracting more diverse workforce within their organization by kind of carefully crafting the language in job advertisement and stuff like that. So I think that was really great. I had many other interviews, I think, that I found quite inspiring. There was this official at IP Australia again, who I interviewed some time back, maybe last year or maybe the year before that, who told me about how having like an inclusive workforce actually affects productivity as well. So that was great. But also in general, I like to kind of write about the diversity and inclusion issues and also mental health issues that you still see at law firms and how kind of leaders and also junior lawyers and also members of the diverse workforce as well. They can kind of deal with those issues. So I would say those are my favorite pieces to write. I know I never pointed out a single piece, but I think it's very, very, very hard for me to do that, to be honest.
And because you have such a unique perspective, because you work as a journalist and write about these issues, and you work as a lawyer, so you've been in the arena, so to say. What, according to you, do you think could be some of the things that could help improve well-being in the legal profession?
I think we need to see more kindness, I suppose. Like, we need people to recognize the biases and microaggressions that they have faced during their own careers and make a conscious effort to, not pass it on to the next generation of lawyers.
Mhm.
So I think that's very important. We need better working hours. We need to normalize not giving into unreasonable demands,
Hmm.
both from, your seniors and clients as well. We need those on top, like leadership team members, to be more cognizant of their actions and be drivers of change. We need the same people, the leadership people, seniors, to recognize that mental health crisis is a real issue among lawyers, right? That acknowledgement or recognition is the first step. And the mental health crisis is a real issue, particularly among junior lawyers. So
Hmm.
senior team members need to extend all the help they can through policy changes or otherwise. Honestly, I mean, there is an endless list of things that could, help the legal profession better support well-being of lawyers, particularly junior lawyers. I think, like, those on the bottom are often the one who have to bear the brunt of their seniors' actions, or like they get the most hit, right?
Hmm.
So I have written about quite a lot on managing IP, and anyone interested can probably go read about it. But we need more supportive workplaces where you have colleagues, you have seniors who recognize what you're going through and they can help you go through the same.
I think the idea is not to say because I went through this, you should also go through this. It's because I've been through this. So what can I change so that the next person does not have to go through that?
Exactly. And you don't really see a lot of people doing that, right? Even, you don't necessarily see differences with people who have been in the profession for 20 years longer than you. Even somebody who's like 3, 4 years older than you, they probably kind of, try to boss you around. That's very common.
Hmm.
And you need to recognize that that's not helping anyone, right? You can get a lot more work done if you're working together, if you're supporting each other. That's that's a kind of outlook we need to sort of embrace, irrespective of how you have been treated in the past.
More supportive work environment definitely needs to be there. And my last question, what do you find most rewarding in your new career?
I mean, I love that I am writing to earn a living. I've always been a nerd, right? I love reading. I love like really researching hard, like delving really deep into a topic. And I love, love, love writing.
Hmm.
And I really like that I get to do that for a living right now. So that's been, really rewarding for me. And also, even though decided to leave the legal profession, I've always been passionate about law. I've always been passionate about IP.
Hmm.
And I'm really glad that I still get to stay connected with that even now. It's a major part of my job even now. So I know what's going on in the IP world, not just in India, like across other jurisdictions as well. So that's really great. I get to speak to so many different lawyers in a week, in a month, and they kind of bring so many diverse perspectives to the table, right? Like I think I learned a lot less about law as a lawyer, and I
Hmm.
learned a lot more, as a journalist about law, to be honest. And when I joined managing IP, I realized that even though my colleagues didn't have a law degree, they did know so much more about IP than me. That was like really, really amazing to see.
Hmm.
And now I know why is it that they do, because it's just those conversations that you have with lawyers from across the world that are very, very insightful. So again, these conversations that I get to have, I'm very fortunate to have them, and that's a big reward of my career as well. Of course, again, as I mentioned before, writing. That's something I love doing, and I hope that I continue to get to do for a long time, for sure.
So happy to see you excited about that aspect because, I could relate to it a little bit because when I speak to the people on the podcast, I also get to know a lot more about the career transitions and, how they handled it. And there's always some takeaways that I can take from the conversation.
Yeah, that's been really amazing to be honest. And like you meet all kinds of people, right? People who are very open about things, people who are very passionate about law, people who are very passionate about, bringing change into the organization from like, diversity, inclusion, just bettering their workplace kind of perspective. So yeah, it's just kind of helps shape my writing as well, right? So it's just been great.
The last question is what career advice would you have for somebody who may be thinking of transitioning?
I was just trying to kind of reflect on my journey. And I believe that before you take that decision of transitioning into a different career, it's very important to think about the long term repercussions of your move. Like you think about the long term financial plans, your career ambitions, your life plans. You may have to take into account that you may not make as much money, especially if you're transitioning out of a top tier law firm or a big company, at least in the initial days of your new career. Are you going to be okay with that? Also, are you really okay to start from scratch and learn everything from the very beginning, even if you have spent, like, say, a decade at your old profession? Because a lot of people are not able to do that. You have to be really, really humble. You have to work with the team. You have to be able to kind of, accept that you are the most junior person in the room and you have to listen and learn. So, are you ready to do that? These are just some things to think about. And also, don't just leave the profession because you didn't really like working with a particular team or organization. There are some great people out there to work with. To be and the good thing about the legal profession is that you're part of a huge network, right? So use that, find better people, better teams to work with. And if you still don't like the legal profession after that, then think of transitioning. And I think when you're looking to transition out of a career, somewhat consciously or subconsciously like what you're looking for. So identify that, identify your strengths, do a bit of research on what you can do based on your strengths. And yeah, then don't feel shy about reaching out to the people who can help you take that next step. That's pretty much all the advice I think I have to give.
Those are some really good points. I think it's important for you to figure out for yourself what you want from your career at the end of the day, and not just go for it because somebody else was doing it. So I think that's it, Sukanya. So thank you so much. I had like a lovely time chatting with you today and getting to know more about how you transitioned. And I hope that you continue to write more about well-being and diversity issues in the legal profession to raise more awareness about that. So wishing you all the very best in your career journey.
Thank you so much, Kanika. I really enjoyed speaking with you as well. It took kind of, our conversation allowed me to kind of look back over the past 10 years or so and see like what I've done right and where I've gone wrong. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to do that. That was really great.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the HMHL podcast. It's our hope that these stories and insights not only inspire you, but also empower you in your professional journey, whether within the legal field or beyond. Remember, change is a journey, and Happy Mind, Happy Lawyer is here to support you every step of the way. To learn more about our work and access our resources for your career transition, visit www.happymindhappylawyer.com or email us at contact@happymindhappylawyer.com. Don't forget to share this with someone who might find it useful and subscribe for more inspiring stories from ex-lawyers who've paved their paths to success. Remember, you have the power to redefine your career and find joy in your work. Until next time, I'm Kanika, wishing you clarity, courage, and a happy mind.